James Kaufman, World News Report today, August 14th, 2024. God bless you and yours, no matter where you are in the world. Please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell for critical future updates. Monkeypox, now known as Mpox, has been declared a public emergency in Africa. Headed to a town near you. The African Center for Disease Control and Prevention declared this week that the increasing spread of Mpox across the continent is a health emergency, warning the virus might ultimately spill across international borders. On Wednesday, the World Health Organization is convening its own expert meeting to consider making a similar emergency declaration over Mpox. The UN Health Agency said there has been more than 14,000 cases and 524 deaths this year, which already exceeds last year's figures. So far, more than 90% of all cases and deaths are in a single country, the Congo. Scientists are concerned by the spread of a new version of the disease there that might be more easily transmitted among people. Here's a look at what we know about Mpox and what might be done to contain it. Well, with open borders here in America, I'm sure it's already here. You could fence it and burn it. Mpox, also known as monkeypox, was first identified by scientists in 1958 when there was an outbreak of pox-like diseases in monkeys. Until recently, most human cases were seen in people in Central and West Africa who had close contact with infected animals. In 2022, the virus was confirmed to spread via sex for the first time and triggered outbreaks in more than 70 countries that had not previously reported Mpox. Gain of function. Mpox belongs to the same family of viruses as smallpox, but causes milder symptoms like fever, chills, and body aches. People with more serious cases can develop lesions on the face, hands, chest, and genitals. In a report recently released, the African Center for Disease Control and the African Union declared Mpox a public health emergency. The number of cases has jumped dramatically. Last week, the African CDC reported that Mpox has now been detected in at least 13 African countries. Compared with the same period last year, the agency said the cases are up 160% and deaths have increased by 19%. Earlier this year, scientists reported the emergence of a new form of Mpox in a Congo mining town that can kill up to 10% of the people and may spread more easily among people. Unlike in previous Mpox outbreaks, where lesions were mostly seen on the chest, hands, and feet, the new form of Mpox causes milder symptoms and lesions on the genitals. That makes it harder to spot, meaning people might also sicken others without knowing they're infected. The World Health Organization says Mpox was recently identified for the first time in 4 East African countries: Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda. All of those outbreaks were linked to the epidemic in the Congo. In the Ivory Coast and South Africa, health authorities have reported outbreaks of a different and less dangerous version of the Mpox that spread worldwide in 2022. What does an emergency declaration mean? The Africa CDC Director General Dr. Jean Kaseya said the agency's declaration of public health emergency was meant to mobilize our institutions, our collective will, and our resources to act swiftly and decisively. He appealed to Africa's international partners for help, saying the escalating caseloads in Africa had largely been ignored. Quote, "It's clear that current control strategies are not working, and there is a clear need for more resources," said Michael Marks, a professor of medicine at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Quote, if a global emergency declaration is in the mechanism to unlock these things, then it is warranted, he said. So he's calling for a global emergency declaration for Mpox. What is the difference between the current outbreak in Africa compared to the 2022 epidemic? During the global outbreak of Mpox in 2022, gay and bisexual men made up the vast majority of cases, and the virus was mostly spread through close contact, including sex. Although some similar patterns have been seen in Africa, children under 15 now account for more than 70% of the Mpox cases and 85% of the deaths in the Congo. Ahead of its emergency meeting on Mpox being held today, the WHO director said officials were dealing with several Mpox outbreaks in various countries with different modes of transmission and different levels of risk. Quote, stopping these outbreaks will require a tailored and comprehensive response, he said. Greg Ram, Save the Children's Congo director, said the organization was particularly worried about the spread of Mpox in the crowded camps for refugees in the east, noting that there were 345,000 children crammed into tents in unsanitary conditions. He said the country's health system was already collapsing under the strain of malnutrition, measles, and cholera. Dr. Bogman Tatanji, an infectious disease expert at Emory University, said it was unclear why children were so disproportionately hit by this Mpox in the Congo. She said it might be because kids are more susceptible to the virus, or that social factors like overcrowding and exposure to parents who caught this disease might explain this. How might Mpox be stopped? The 2022 outbreak of Mpox in dozens of countries was largely shut down with the use of vaccines and treatments in rich countries, in addition to convincing people to avoid risky behavior. But barely any vaccines or treatments have been available in Africa. Marks of the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine said that immunization would likely help, including inoculating people against smallpox, a related virus. Quote, we need a large supply of vaccines so that we can vaccinate populations most at risk, he said, adding, that would mean sex workers, children, and adults living in outbreak regions. Congo has said it is in talks with donors about possible vaccine donations and has gotten some financial aid from Great Britain and the United States. The World Health Organization said it released $1.45 million from its emergency fund to support the response to Mpox in the Congo and Africa. God bless you and yours. It's the next vaccine. Please share, subscribe, and always remember that anything's possible before an election, and anything's possible in Bizarro World.